Ambitious, Awakened, and Aligned welcomes back one of our favorite ongoing guests, Kate Thompson from Rock Thompson Financial. And Kate, it's always a joy, and we're giggling because, well, a few reasons. Two Geminis that get their heads together, and we're talking about what we want to talk about today, and we start getting into this like planning and thinking, and then we both kind of at the same time went, nope, let's just roll with it. Because Kate spends all of her time planning, thinking, analyzing, strategizing, for all of the amazing people and clients that get to work with her, but also just in general. And so, what I value so much about us is we could get together and riff for, I actually think we could do a national, what is it? What are those things where
World records?
a world record, Guinness World World Record for how long people could just chit chat about everything and nothing and feel so full. So I'm grateful to have you here with us and our listeners again. And today I'm really excited because Kate has launched something that just expands my heart so much watching her do this. She has launched a book club, Sense and Sensibility, where she is exploring with women our money stuff. And Kate, you launched last week. I had the great pleasure of sitting in on the first book club, and so many women said yes to this and got to have a vulnerable, open conversation about things that I haven't sat in a room and really done with women in the past. We started to this last year through your inspiration and some other circles, sacred circles we've been in, the festival, of course, you led us through that. And now you're continuing it. And what I love is watching women say, yes, please, more. And so today I thought it'd be great for our listeners to hear about the first book you did, which is Money, a Love Story by Kate Northrup. And you and I both really enjoy following her and have for years.
Mhm.
And so, what a great place to start. Untangle your financial woes. Oh, woe is me. And create the life you really want. And so, as this book begins, it is Kate sharing her money story and encouraging us to do the same. And on that, I'm going to punt over to you. Thank you, and thank you for being here. I think we should have a glass of bubbly, but it's actually too early in the day.
Oh,
Said me never.
I'm like, "What? It's Friday. What are you talking about?"
Pop
Oh,
cork will come very
yeah,
soon.
exactly. It'll become post and this is the first time we've ever done this virtually, like, we're usually in the same room together,
Mhm.
so even just, like, navigating the difference in the energy, like, by being on screen, so it's kinda fun to do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for the privilege and the opportunity to launch this book club, and, I'm excited to see what might happen. We were joking, before about, like, it's an experiment. It's a whole new way of, like, trying to bring, opportunities for financial, conversations, but, like, in a intentional way, but hopefully in a safe way, and like, because everyone's reading on their own and we're coming together once a month, then you can come with your questions or we can inspire or gently challenge each other in perspective and in our way of thinking, but we get to do our own work as well. So it's not a yeah. I'm hoping that it's like a nice way, a door opener, or a way to just consider things in a different thought, perspective.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was so pleased that we had so many people that are so many lovely women that just said yes. Like thank you for the invite
Amazing.
and get on the call and like literally had no idea how I'm like I had prepared like all these questions and went over over analyzed it, haha. But like also like are we gonna have dead space? Like, will women feel brave enough to step in and share? And man, 90 minutes went like that. It was so
Yeah.
fun.
That was, as the book club started and you asked your first couple of questions, and, I had said to Kate, "Listen, I'll jump in for sure, just to make sure the conversations happen and flow," and you just don't know because it's a perceived scary topic, and as we have come to understand, a deeper perceived scary topic for women and to own their money stories and own their stuff and be vulnerable and open. And so I remember looking at sort of 10 minutes in and thinking, wow, 90 minutes. Wow, this is going to be like, and then boom, 90 minutes gone. And everybody took part and everybody was vulnerable and open. And I sat there just realizing it's time. I've been saying this for the last year or so, not just with money, it's time. It's time for women to gather and have real conversations about the things that are vital to our own well being and success, however we define that. So, this was magic in a room. And we weren't even in a room, we were virtual, which made it even more magical. And we were not previously all connected people. And yet, that first question opened the door and we kept going and growing.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thinking as you were saying that, like, I will share, if you would agree, like, even we did icebreaker questions, so
Mm.
trying to, give everyone the chance to say or sense, like, what could this be? Like, what's this experience gonna be like? Because I just said, "Come to the book club," and they said, "Yes." Like, we didn't talk about it any more than that. So, I tried to find ways to have, even thoughtful questions without it being like, well, let's like reveal everything. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. And you need to, talk about the failures or you need to talk about the bad stuff. It's like, it's supposed to be more than that. So trying to create a safe space. So like some of the questions that we talked about right off was like, what's the first word that comes to mind when you think about money? And why? Or, the fun one was, like, imagine you just received $1,000,000, but you can't spend it on yourself. What would you spend it on?
And these are great questions as you're listening to just think about for yourself. Those were so fun and insightful and set the tone.
Yeah, so I think yeah, it was fun to see, like, even people's reactions or sorry, that's not the right word, responses,
Mhm,
where, yeah, like, some of us were like, "Oh, I know exactly what the answer is to that," like, or I can articulate how I feel when I think about money, and then, others needed a little bit more time,
mhm,
but, even to be able to listen to each other and see in some ways how similar we actually are.
mhm. So I thought it would be fun today and even similar sorry, I wanna go to that. Similar, maybe not in our stories,
Mhm.
similar in our desire to grow for sure.
Yes.
Similar to that like that real response of, "Hey, we're in this together. Where no matter where we are on the journey, it actually doesn't matter." And I think that's something that you did a beautiful job of in all the conversations over the course of the last year is, money is just
Construct.
it's
It's
just a
just
construct.
it's just a thing.
Tell us more about that because I think that perspective changes the conversations.
Well, this is like, Kate talks about this in her book as well, and it's a system that was created as an exchange. So it's a note or it's a piece of gold or it's an IOU, yeah, as it were, right? And then we've just put dollar values on things based on that. So it's an exchange of I pay for a service or I'm getting groceries or, I've given you a massage or whatever it is, right? But we use money for that purpose. But we've made money like an entity, like it's a separate being. There's energy around it, like there's energy attached to everything, but it doesn't actually exist. So
Whoa. Whoa.
I'm sorry, what? It doesn't exist, and even saying it even now in my body, like, saying it, I'm just like,
Mm,
I really believe that because I got a lot of feelings that are
mhm.
pretty concrete that are attached to that, but I just love sitting in that. I'm like, "Wait a second. it's not it's just a means. It's just a note, a notion, a
Mhm,
sense for, like, just so that we can attach a fair exchange of goods and services.
mhm. Wow, right?
Yeah.
And then think about how many other things we wrap up in it,
Mhm.
from
Mhm.
belief systems to limiting thoughts to value to relationship challenges, like, just keep going and going and going. And so that's what this book was about, is unraveling some of that, and that is the work you do. I loved hearing so many testimonials about how you've walked women through this in their own personal lives to have a new beautiful relationship with their own money stories, which has created different levels of fulfillment for them. So let's start with the money story part though, because I think before you, I guess it's going back a year and a half ago now, there was a small group of us together at an offsite, and Kate started asking questions that were aligned to money story.
Mhm.
And I had never done that before. I'm not afraid of talking about money, so that's not been a challenge for me. But I've come to understand that it really is for women. So I have a deep heart towards this. And I think you thought you were going to just ask a couple of simple questions, and the next thing we knew, like 3 hours had gone by, and it actually opened the conduits to these really rich, meaningful, not just conversations, but connections after.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really deep.
And
So
I
let's
loved
go there.
that. Sorry, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I loved that, that the same similar questions came up in Kate's book, and so when I read it, I kinda giggled, right? Because we're not creating anything that's new. We're just trying to have an opportunity, like, we're each in our own way, trying to, create awareness and get, like we're talking about, a opportunity to have a conversation. So the question I asked, hers was slightly different, but it was like, what's your first money memory?
Mhm.
And it's not, oh, it's good or it's bad, but just if we can start to make a connection to, oh, well, like, these were my experiences as a child when it came to money. This is what I saw, this is what I felt, this is what I saw my family experience, or their, like, relationship to it. And then starting to create an awareness around, oh, like, have I just taken that and extrapolated it and just said, well, this is just how it works with money? Like, but have I actually, or am I responding emotionally, based on an experience that I had as a child, and that formed a connection, an energetic connection towards what money means, or doesn't. So it was, yeah, it was. We talked about that in the book club, whereas is like, what is, yeah, what's a money story, or what's your first money memory, was what we talked about at the festival as well.
Mhm. And it's interesting as you go through the book, because that's where Kate Northrup starts, is her money story, and seeing how different experiences in your life start to layer on that story. And so it's always nice to almost reflect on someone else's, to go internal on your own. And so this is a great exercise for everyone listening to do on your own. Write out your money story. Write yourself a love letter to you and money. Like, just go really deep on your thoughts, your perspectives, your experiences. Where did that first come from? And that's amazing. And even more powerful is not doing that in isolation, doing that actually in a conversation with somebody,
Mm.
like a sacred sister like Kate Thompson. Now we're just, like, confusing our Kates here today.
Yeah, right.
There's too many Kates, Nebbit.
Either Kate's a great idea, in my opinion. Yeah.
Either Kate. Excuse me. But to have the opportunity to do that with someone else or a group of people just amplifies that power. Because I remember sitting there when you first did it and thinking, wow, so there was, 5 of us, and 4 people of the 5 had pretty sad, negative connotations to the beginning of their money stories, to those first money memories, and I did not have that.
Mhm.
So it was fascinating to me because I had never done that, to sit with a group of people and have a window into how different our stories are. And it actually amplified my gratitude for some of my teachings, I guess, from a young age of not I never saw my parents fight about money. I remember, and I said this on the book club, I remember because we were farmers and, my father also was a CEO of a company, and so, looking back even of that, that to be a successful farmer back in the 70s, 80s, you actually couldn't really succeed well and do that as your only job.
Right.
So my dad had this other job and as a family, it was really like the family did. Yes, I picked stones. Yes, I did hay. Yes, I fed the cattle. We were sort of the hired help on the farm, which was such amazing experience. I would not have said that back then.
Mhm.
And so but I didn't attach anything to that. It was just what he had to do. But I do remember a conversation about this $300,000 combine, which today, that's like, I don't even know how much they cost today, but
I
there
think
wasn't a little bit more, but there wasn't even huge stress around that conversation. It was like just a fact.
mm,
To run the farm, we require a piece of equipment. This piece of equipment requires this much money. And then I do remember things like the interest rates were so high and my dad was getting moved for work, and this was a heritage family farm that we were selling, and, the decision was to sell the heritage family farm, and I know there was emotion around that, a lot of emotion around that, and yet they never attached it to the money side.
mm,
Later in life, they have shared with us that it was a lot about the money. Interest rates were 23%. So, to run 7 farms and do all of that and try to live a life and my dad traveling all the time, it was just getting harder and harder. So, I can't imagine how difficult that decision was now that I'm this age and know what that would have been like.
that's the perspective, right?
Yeah, but they didn't in front of us sit and make that a money thing.
Mm.
And I appreciate that, and even as I joke about picking stones and hay and every job we were given, like, we tracked our hours, and we were paid an hourly rate for everything that we did. So I have this really funny, thinking how like, literally 8 years old making my bed, and that takes 15 minutes, and that went on a tracking sheet.
Wow.
And everything was tracked, how many hours we did that. I did not like going to the barn, and I was allergic to the barn, so I would cook meals for the family so that my mom could go, and, from a young age, at 10, I was probably the chef in the house, and even for hired hands and stuff, I did all the cooking, so I'd get paid for that.
Right.
And, but then we had to put ourselves through university, but really, we didn't because we were paid to do the chores that we did on the
Right.
farm, right?
It
Yeah.
it sounds like it was all run like a business.
It was,
Understood.
everything.
Yeah, you understood very quickly the attachment of the work, like where good work ethic comes from, right? And then what is required to run that kind of business. Like
Mhm.
everyone needed to do their part.
Even our report cards were run like a business. It was like a performance evaluation, actually, when you say that, like, and literally, our house was run like a business. I've never actually thought of that before.
Was
Yes,
that
even
I'm just
I
curious,
I
like,
think I shared
was that stressful? Like, did
no.
or you all respond positive to like that?
Yes, interesting, right? So, listen, if they'd had another type of a child, who knows?
Mm,
But I would say I have 2 brothers, 1 older, 1 younger. The 3 of us responded very well to that and, really played into even if you look at the type of people we are today, it just worked. But even at, I think it was 13, I believe I shared this when we were away. My dad thought it was really important. This is so funny. It's a business that we all learned selling skills. And I was definitely at a young age, the one that really just loved to meet people, very extroverted. And so I was cooking. I wanted to be a chef, I thought. So I would bake pies and I had a garden, so I would I'd have grow cucumbers and things like that. So the one summer, I would do the baked goods, and my dad would put me in the pickup truck, and we would go to the local campgrounds and drive around and actually sell my product.
Wow.
Go and talk to all the people there and, "Would you like some pies?" And they'd announce it over the loudspeaker that Lori was here to sell her pies and baked goods. And then the next summer when I was, growing the cucumbers, we actually had the canneries lived not far from us. So my dad took me to the cannery, had a conversation with the general manager about selling cucumbers that they could use for their cannery. And so I had an actual, like, contract with the cannery. I think I was probably 14.
That's amazing. Like, what a beautiful way to share that entrepreneurial spirit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for that because I talk about sales, right? Which has for business owners, the sales side of it is such a deep entrenchment to the money stories as well. And so that part never it was innate. We had learned that from such a young age
Yeah.
and in a beautiful way because my dad's all about relationships.
Right.
And so it was an invitation. I learned from a young age that selling was about an invitation and connection and helping people helping people buy something they desired. It wasn't pushy, it wasn't right? So it's definitely something that I further went into a sales career and it makes sense. So back to, our trajectory aligns deeply with that original money story.
Totally. Well, and you were taught at a young age that there is no scarcity with money.
Mm-mm.
It's about, like, figure out what someone needs and find it that kind way to deliver that need,
Mhm.
right? Like, make it supportive, make it fun, make it attainable, available. Take risks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just there it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important to do this work, to go back and really connect to that money story,
Mhm.
good and, not so good because it all is just information that helps us understand where we're at today.
Yeah.
Because something I share openly is my husband comes from a different background, and I would say we were raised very similar as far as financial stature, as if that's the right word, in our homes. Um, and yet the belief systems towards money were so different from the belief systems inherent in my home. And we don't fight about money. We have deep we have done a lot of deep work about finding alignment in our money stories as a couple.
Mhm.
So he comes at things from scarcity, I come at them from abundance. Neither actually are right or wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a perspective.
It's just a perspective. And so we've had such beautiful migration to how do we do that dance together. And through that, I would say he's really been able to move away from, he's been able to understand and see it, which is
Mhm.
why doing this work is so important.
And the same for you, right? I think
Yeah.
that's what you started with, like, what even when the 5 of us were in that circle and we were sharing our first money memories, it was surprising to you that really the average is negative. And, right, so if we have that as our context and our way of seeing money, then it does make it harder to maybe trust that there's enough, or to think that that we don't have to, like, work our guts out to deserve a certain amount, or how do we enjoy the benefits of what we've received, or how do we steward it well, like, just all those things, like, it can be negative, and it can be like, fearful. So, like, even being able for, like, the two of you to be able to come together and say, "Well, this is how I see it, and this is this is how he sees it, and then how do we see it together? Like, how do you create your money story as a couple and as a family?" Um,
Yeah, and I think that's vital because even though, we can come to understanding and support, we also had to find a way of operating our life that deeply aligned with his needs too.
exactly.
So, my belief that it's always going to work out, and I do believe that wholeheartedly, doesn't allow for as much long-term planning as he requires.
Mhm.
And back to I'm a Gemini. So I don't know, you're a Gemini too, and you're like very you've got something else mixed in there. Whereas I literally could just like I always said too, if something bad happens, we could always live in a tent and have a backpack, like I have that really free spirited piece, which needs a little grounding.
Right.
And so he brings that. He brings that grounded, he brings that long-term planning, and then I love to plan and structure so I can take that longer term view than I would. And now it's a beautiful dance, but also we recognize when those pieces come up now. So as an entrepreneur, as someone in a relationship, this work is really important.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it
vital.
is. It is, and I would say definitely, like, in that instance, like, that's a beautiful example, but it doesn't negate the, importance or value around doing the work irrespective of whether or not you're in a relationship. It's
Mhm.
not about that because we have like, what Kate was talking about in the book is, like, understanding our emotional responses. Like, understanding when, like, these yucky feelings come up and why, or why you, like, kinda go, like, out of your head and you're not really thinking about what you're spending because you're, like, completely disassociated, or you have a need for something that is like an appetite that you can't understand. So, like, getting to that, and I'm not talking about, like, it's hard work, you gotta get to the bottom of it, you need tons of therapy, and you gotta figure yourself out. I just mean, like, hey, just be a bit more aware and maybe be on the mindfulness kinda journey, right? That, or you can say, "Hey, you know what? I got a plan for 50 years. Like, I know it's not logical, but I gotta have my number," and, like, being able to even soothe that and just being saying, "This is who I am," and maybe over time that you're just thinking about you and your husband, right? Like, over time, you've learned how to learn and trust each other. You can learn and trust actually your own instincts around your money and how you spend or what you need as well. But it's when we're not, when we're kind of out of our minds and we're just focusing or just functioning from an emotional perspective, and definitely if it's a negative emotion, then we get really stuck in the mire when it comes to how to make a good money decision, or how to be able to really self-care, or be able to provide for your future.
All of those things. Yeah. Yeah, well, the most important relationship is with ourselves. And so definitely doing the work with ourselves, for ourselves, and then extending that to every other touch point in our life.
Yeah.
And I think when you take the time to unravel this a little bit, you also, and you please tell me if you see this,
Mhm.
people then get to a place where you can understand money is more energy. Money is movement. Money wants to actually move and wants you to have a beautiful relationship with it. And so I think it allows you to have more freedom around it and
Definitely.
therefore with it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think when it's almost like when you well, we understand, like, when our basic needs are met,
Mhm.
and when we understand what our basic needs are, then we can start look outward, right? Then we can be, we can consider being more generous, or maybe we can provide for other people that are, in our circle in a way that if your basic needs aren't met. So definitely awareness is everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's our superhero.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else? We did the money story. So as we continue through with Kate, what are some other great questions that Kate 2
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, she's very like I like how the book is structured in a sense. Like the first part of it is a foundation. So it's her story. It's yeah, like being able to self-examine, writing your own money story. Yeah, just doing some reflection. And then I would say the back end of it is more around like, okay, so what are you earning? What are you spending? Like what are your priorities and what is it that you're trying to accomplish? So she does also get practical.
Mhm.
And so I like that it's both and. But you can almost like land, you could even land on the first half of the book and stay there for a while. And then maybe once you're if you're struggling with a practical application, maybe that's where you bring someone else in to help you after you've kind of done your reflection, you know what you need and want. Or yeah, you can come back to it later. I like that it's to me it was like there's certain stopping points that you can even have with the book. So some of the one of the questions that I really loved was about gratitude. And one of the things that we talked about when we were on the call was about like what role does gratitude play in your financial mindset, and and then how could that transform your relationship with money? And she used some examples of like a money mantra, which I hadn't thought of that before. That's not my way of traditionally seeing things, but like also from the perspective of like flipping how we may habitually say something. But um the the practice that I really liked was she had suggested a calendar and using the calendar practically so that you're aware of like writing down when money's coming in and when money's going out. But even using it for like automatic. So I, I loved the example of like your cell phone. And so the cell phone comes out on the 18th of the month. And so you're looking at your calendar like and you're expressing and I would say praying, gratitude for that particular line or that particular item. Where it's like, I'm so thankful for my cell phone and what my cell phone provides. And it gives me the ability to stay in touch with people that I love. And it gives me the freedom to be able to, yeah, send a text anytime. It gives me the opportunity to do ease so I can, pay bills or check in with work. Like it's kind of like you making this list and taking a moment to like really connect and feel that. Because my way of being, and I would say like in my practice, has been like automate as much as possible so you don't have to think about it.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, wait a second. Like, yes, there's an ease in that because you don't have to worry about it, but we're not connecting gratitude around that. So that was yeah, that was just one of the little things that really resonated with me. I loved that suggestion.
I think that gratitude exercise is so powerful because with automation, we have actually lost touch
Mm,
with that energy of money. And if we want to align, our future vision, our future self, all the things that we're we're creating and drawing into ourselves, we also want to have that connection to what goes out we're grateful for and what could possibly come back with that. So one of the things I was saying on the call is that I intentionally take out $300 cash every month, and the reason for that is so that I stay attached to some of what's leaving my wallet
love
with that energetic charge with it. So often it will get used for, let's say I'm out and about and I do buy myself a tea. Then I have the opportunity to feel generous about giving a tip with that, and really the connection I have to the person that's
mhm,
serving me, that it's tangible and I get to feel that, and always intentional of the exchange of that money coming out of my wallet and the experience of receiving something back for that, which also helps me with the giving and receiving, which is something that I was sharing, I really would love to give everything away, and I'm now working on the receiving part because money is meant to be flow. It's meant to be out and in. And then another yeah, it's an exchange. And another thing that I did this month is, when I paid my corporate taxes, I actually, instead of doing an e-transfer for it, I wrote a check. I had to dig deep to find the checks. And, I wrote the check and I took it to the bank and I actually sat in my car with the check and I looked at it and I said, multiplied by 10 coming back.
Wow.
And I just sat with it in gratitude of, this is such a beautiful opportunity to put some energy and really that future self vision towards it. So I think that gratitude thing, but I have never done this is the day the cell phone comes out and what a beautiful how you explain that of what we really want to sit in gratitude for.
Mm, mhm, and there's so many things to be grateful for, like, there's so many, moments that we can really express that positive energy towards money, like what
Mhm.
we already have.
What we
So it's
already have.
yes. Yeah, so it's not, there's the, like, the money mindset and, like, expansion, but there's also, and what about today? Like,
Mhm.
right now, like, what do you have? Like, maybe it's it's a prepared lunch in your fridge, or maybe it's the opportunity to have a coffee with a friend, right? Like that you can, like, just to be able to say thank you for money, for the ability, for the, for just being able to.
Mm.
It's yeah, I think we've talked before about how, because we're in a tap world now, like, it is harder to connect, like, when we were spending our I love that you still do the cash. It's funny as I think, do you go to actually, I wanna ask, this is an aside. Do you go to places that can't accept cash? Has that
Mm.
happened?
No.
Okay, so money, tangible money, the paper money or coin
Mhm.
money still exists. Um, I was just, like, wondering,
Yeah, I
has
mean, I guess I probably do, but I cognitively know that, so I don't attempt to. I was thinking the opposite is actually where I love to go get my toes done. They only take cash, which is rare today, and
okay.
I kind of love that. It's
Yeah.
kind of
So there
cool.
I think there is some countercultural stuff happening, like cultural.
Yes, for sure, and I do believe you're right. I know because my aunt is in her late 80s and, because she's really can't leave the home, everything's done through either a check or cash that she'll give to one of us to deal with, and so many places won't accept it now, so that's been really hard. That is really hard for her generation.
Yeah, to be like, that's not their way of being, like, they
No.
had a more tangible connection to money.
Mhm.
So that's where maybe, like, even just reviewing your, like, I try and recommend for, anyone that I'm doing work with, like, to regularly review the money in and money out.
Yes.
So, my way of thinking towards that is more like manage it, right? Like, be responsible, and I'm like, "Oh, what if it's actually from the perspective of, wow, look what happened this week." Right?
Yeah.
Like, look at these, things that I got to pay for, or these, or the, like, this is the money that came in this week. Yeah, like, just
Love
wow.
that. Love that. Just a wow with your money moment.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. So, I think again, Kate and I could go on for hours. So, I
Good.
believe the best place to stop this conversation is on gratitude. So we've got the money story and the questions asked at the beginning. Really dive into those, and we'll put a couple of them in the show notes. We'll put the link to the book. Also, is the gratitude piece and the understanding the flow of money. And Kate is a beautiful resource. If you want to dive into this on your own, please reach out to her. And then we'll put a link to your book club And right now, Kate is doing this with just a joy and a desire. So there's actually no investment required right now for the book club. So join, come and have incredible conversations with like minded and spirited women that are on the same journey. And what's next month's book?
Money fog.
Yeah.
Yeah, lifting money fog. Sorry, I don't have the wait a second. Pause on that 1 second. I wanna make sure I get it right.
It's a beautiful cover, I know that because I've ordered it from Amazon already, and, the cover of it just in itself and also the word money fog, who doesn't have some fog?
Rise. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I got it right for her. So it's rise above the money fog.
Rise Above the Money Fog. Woo! With Sense and Sensibility Book Club. So we'll put all of the deets in the show notes, and thank you again for being our guest here, Kate, and for sharing all your money insights and inspirations. So grateful.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, till next time.